He is just gorgeous. They spend a lot of their time on the driftwood. Lemon blue-eyed Pleco. A gigantic culture of California blackworms in this tank. I'm gonna stick my hand in here, which is probably a little crazy because these things are poisonous. This room barely ever gets used, so it's slowly turning into another fish room. This beautiful swordtail I caught with actually with Corey from Aquarium Co-op. I've only seen a few of those in the wild. It's been a while since we've done a full tour of the fish cave, and even longer since we checked out the tanks inside. There's only 2 tanks permanently set up inside, but we got some new fish, eggs, and juveniles from Spain and Hawaii that I'm growing out in there. So we'll take a look at all that after we cover the 30+ tanks in here. I keep it real with you, so we're gonna be talking about successes and failures, some breeding and some deaths, as well as some fish that we just moved on from and ended up rehoming. We're gonna check out the 16 tank rack system, the new 125 a little bit. We'll briefly cover the Pleco factory, but let's start over here in this corner. This tank over here is a 10-gallon that I've had these panda cories for a little bit now, and trying to get a little more serious with the breeding operation. When I just had the panda cories as my only kind of egg layers, not gonna lie, just kind of was laziness slash, didn't want to go through the operation raising brine shrimp, etc. for, a few babies. But now that I've got these cories, as well as another species we'll take a look at, and some other fish that I'm gonna raise eggs, I'm gonna kind of do like an egg layer factory, kind of like I have the Pleco factory going. So hoping to get those breeding soon. This 55-gallon tank, which has kind of been like a catch-all forever, but I really love all the fish in here, especially these hillstream loaches. These go by a million names: Chinese butterfly loach, hillstream loach. I think some people call them a Borneo sucker, but I believe that's a different fish. I have a group of 5 in here, and I believe I have males and females. I would love to be able to breed these, like I know a few people like Madfish Diva has. I did go ahead and fairly recently add some larger rocks instead of the smaller size I had. I had more rocks this size, and I don't believe they were large enough for the hillstream loaches to kind of get up in between, because that's how they reproduce. They like to kind of get in the rock structure, and they're, obviously they're a big eater of algae and aufschwash, or whatever that word is. They spend a lot of their time on the driftwood here, as well as, pretty much all flat surfaces, just kind of hanging out, scraping the algae. That's why I do run 2 lights on here. These are, one's a beams work, one's an aquaneat. So they're just kind of like, budget lights you can get on eBay, I believe. I got them secondhand. But definitely want to breed those hillstream loaches. That's my main goal for this tank, and I know that working against me is going to be these clown loaches. I moved these clown loaches over here a little over a month ago now. There's actually 7 or 8 of them in here, but they hide within the rocks, believe it or not. I know it sounds crazy, and that's one of the smaller ones too, but they seem to be all hiding right now. Let's talk about the rasboras. Maybe the loaches will come out. There's a school of about 12, 13 Harlequin rasboras that are doing well in here. And we still have some cardinal chetras as well, although they have kind of been falling by the wayside one by one. I think I'm down to, you see 3 there, I think there's a 4th one in here. I think I'm down to 4. There was a clown loach peeking his head out back there. They're hiding in there. They're hidey little suckers. And then we have some of these red blue Colombian tetras also. So definitely want to get these hillstream loaches breeding. I think in order to do so, I may have to put these into species only, which means I have to find another location for these clown loaches. There's a little bit of a larger one. I think there's maybe like the 2nd or 3rd largest one, but they're doing well. The next tank over here is going to be the stir-by cories. This is another species of cories that I picked up in order to hopefully breed eventually. So there's 6, they're all hiding back there. I've been trying to feed them full of bloodworms and brine shrimp and just very, healthy, good foods to hopefully fatten up the females and get them going, throwing eggs. One more tank over, and these are all 10 gallons, by the way, this little row right here. But this tank right here is full of natives These are the first set of native fish that you'll see that I collected myself in the wild here in Central Florida. These are a species of crayfish. I'm not sure of the species, but there's 2 in here. And we're gonna take a quick peek. One of the inside tanks that I have set up, it used to be a 55-gallon Mbuna tank. It's now a planted native tank. I want to talk about this fish real quick while it's front and center. If I can get it, there it is. That is a sailfin molly. That is a melanistic sailfin molly. So it kind of looks like that black and white blotching. The camera's not picking it up a ton, but that's a really cool, I've only seen a few of those in the wild. I see melanistic gambusia. There's it kind of focusing a little bit, but that is a melanistic sailfin molly, I believe, and it's still pretty small, but really cool looking fish. Only the second one I've ever seen. And there's some darters. These darters are pretty cool. Got a few in that tank. These are just a swamp darter, I believe. That's a bluefin killifish. And there's also some shiner species in here. This larger fish, I believe, is the type of shiner. I was actually able to successfully collect these for the first time. I found them once before, brought them home, but unfortunately lost them. This time I had success with a few of these shiner species. That one as well is another type of shiner species. These fish out here, I'm still kind of a quarantining period. I just collected these a little over a week ago. So I'll probably end up giving these some to friends. Some will go in the 55-gallon tank in the house. The next tank over here is a snail tank, but also got a pair of guppies. This is a pair of guppies that I got from Aquatics. I forget what he calls them. I had a trio, but it was 2 males and 1 female, and the other male I didn't like as much, so I pulled him out. So now we just have this pair. So I'm hoping to breed these guys out and get a nice little strain of guppies going. And one of the tanks over here in the rack system that we'll get to, this planted one right there, it is full of endlers. You can't really tell maybe from this distance, but it is jack-packed full of endlers. Is that a saying? Jack-packed full? I don't know. Anyway, so really excited. Hopefully these guys breed as prolifically as the endlers do. This tank that looks like a mess right now, there's a string of shrimp in here. I got these shrimp earlier this year at the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society. They were like a green shrimp, but I don't know if you guys know much about Neocaridina or Dynia, whatever, green shrimp. They're not the most like stable or whatever. These guys, I believe they came from like a yellow line. So I've been working on them. They're kind of like this Sprite color, lemon lime-ish, yellowy green, but that's pretty much what's going on in that 5-gallon tank. This tank over here may be of interest to some people. I got an update video coming soon. This is my blackworm culture. I put out a video, I believe it was like the end of last year. But as you can see, guys, this is in that last video, I had set up this culture and it is going strong. This little mock sponge filter I made is working. This tank has been here in the garage, mind you, in Florida with no, it's insulated. But we're talking, my tanks regularly get to even the mid-high 80s, 85, 86. So most people would tell you, oh, blackworms need to be cold, put them in the fridge. You know, maybe, but maybe not. We'll have a video coming on that because I got a few tanks jack full. Am I making up new things? Jack full of stuff? I don't know. Anyway, there's a ton of them in there, and they're doing really well. And I have a few other tanks full of them. And I think when I put out that video, it'll change some people's minds on how you can keep live blackworm cultures. Moving on here, this row of 3 10-gallon tanks is mainly breeding pairs of bristlenose plecos. This is a calico male. He's in the cave right now. I don't believe there's eggs in there. These guys have all been breeding pretty regularly for me, about every 5 weeks or so. That is what's in these tanks over here. I'm not gonna do too much of a deep dive into these tanks because I just put out a Pleco factory video not too long ago, so you can check that out. Although I did just pick up a new species of Pleco in here, so we'll probably do a sneak peek of that. If you hear this noise moving around, I just bought some this greenhouse siding, so I keep stepping on it. But I make cheap lids out of this, so I'll have a video out about that soon probably as well. The next Pleco over here is a lemon blue-eyed Pleco. Now, for the longest time, I was, people would say lemon drop and blue-eyed lemon. I just recently discovered that the lemon drop Pleco is a totally different one than the blue-eyed lemon. So this is just a lemon drop. And I'm gonna grab a flashlight because I think it's within the next week they should be due for eggs. I haven't checked in a day or two, and he's fanning almost like there's eggs. Let's check and see. Okay, no, false alarm. False alarm. But they should be due in the next week or so. And then same thing over here. There's another calico. Actually have more than a pair in here. There's I believe there's 2 or 3 females and a male. And then I also have some Daisy's rice fish. I should have cleaned the glass, but I didn't because it's what I do, man. I just spent a lot of time doing water changes and got some projects and considered cleaning the glass before shooting the video, but I had time, so you're getting a little blurry video. I apologize. But these are Daisy's rice fish. I have the spawning mop in there. I have seen eggs, but once again, I'm kind of on the brink of wanting to crank up my egg production. Like I said, if I'm gonna do something, I wanna do it right. That's why when I started cranking out the Plecos, I wanted to make sure I set myself up for success and got the right tank space. For these eggs, I've hatched out eggs before and raised them. It's doable. I know I can do it, but if I want to do it in quantity, I want to make it easy on myself. So I'm going to set up a system for that. That's the plan with stepping on this thing again. That's the plan with this sump over here, is to construct some type of grow out rack above it. I already have a pump for it. Where is it? Over here. There's a mag drive pump I have for it, and I want to do some kind of recirculating system with some grow out trays for eggs and small fry. But anyway, that's in the future, and that's pretty much it for this side of things. Let me quickly give you guys a look at the new Pleco we have. We're gonna get a sneak peek from the back here, and these are long fin lemon blue-eyed. I almost said lemon drop. We just went over that. So these are long fin lemon blue-eyed. There's a few in here. And these are going to be for grow out, hopefully get them to breed eventually. So really excited to pick up this strain from a breeder and hopefully get these guys going eventually as well. Let's take a look at the rack system. Before we do so, actually, we'll sneak peek this tank again. These are some gold ocellatus shell dwellers. I'm going to do a dedicated video for this tank, and I may lump it in with that tank because they're both lake Tanganyikan. So I won't cover them too much, but some really cool species. Some of these are new, some of these I've had and moved over. I kind of combined a bunch of tanks. The tank that used to be here, or the fish that used to be here, were some African or South American cichlids. I ended up rehoming those. There was a big red devil and some firemouth cichlids. We're saying goodbye to our big red devil friend. We found him a local home here not too far away, so hopefully we'll get some pictures and maybe be able to visit him one day. But I talked to you guys about it a while ago. We're gonna switch up this 125 to some Lake Tanganyikan stuff. So we gotta move on from some of the fishing here, and this guy's awesome, but we're gonna find him a new home. A few months ago, I kind of drew a Venn diagram, not physically, but in my mind. And I said, okay, these are fish that I enjoy keeping, and these are fish that like I can practically keep, maybe breed. And when I drew those 2 big circles, and although I did really enjoy keeping the larger South American cichlids, for the tank space, it just wasn't worth it for me. So I moved on from those larger fish, and I'm really enjoying the, these Lake Tanganyikans. Have a few more species planned for this tank, and some other things going on. It's not really fully scaped yet, but we'll definitely do another dedicated video, like I said, on this tank and the gold ocellatus tank. I want to be thorough, so I kind of want to cover everything with you guys. There's not really too much in these tanks. I just want to touch upon them. They're just super red grow outs. So like I said, these are kind of like these 40 breeders over here. I did a recent video on that, so you can check that out, the Pleco Factory. These are just extra lights I was going through the other day, and then a future 50-gallon dual rack system for more Pleco grow outs. Let's take a look at the rack system. This top left tank, man, this top left tank could tell a story. This is one of the oldest tanks I've had in the fish room. It's been one of the best performing tanks in terms of plants. It looks like a wasteland right now, though. I got a really bad algae outbreak. I also lost. I had a colony of CPDs in here that I ended up losing. Even before that, let's take a step back. Even before that was the beta fish. That's another loss I had. I had the Bisher, which I ended up rehoming. I had an albino Bisher, ended up rehoming the albino Bisher. But before I did that, I had stuck the Bisher in here temporarily when the beta was still in here, like a knucklehead. And overnight, the beta's fins got all tore up, obviously. And I was never able to recover. I took out the beta and first I took out the Bisher. Then the beta was not doing well in here, so I took him out and tried to, get him back to help, but we ended up losing the beta, unfortunately. And then I ended up rehoming the Bisher around the same time that I rehomed the larger fish in here, because the plan was to put the Bisher in the South American cichlid tank, and he got big enough. When the South American cichlid tank didn't exist anymore, the Bisher, went as well. So right here, or unfortunately in here, we have the cherry shrimp, which have been going since day one. There's some assassin snails. But yeah, this tank has not fared well lately, but definitely, plan to give it a reboot here soon. I'm gonna drop down here and talk about a positive thing. And these are some fish that we collected a few weeks ago. And these are some golden top minnows. This is a native killifish to Florida and the southeast United States. That is a female. She is a sausage female. And then over here, there's a male who's hanging out in the spawning mop over here. No spawning activity yet. I'm gonna move the mop because the male is the stunning color. There he is. He is just gorgeous. And she's about twice the size of him or so. I wonder if she's picking on him because he looks like he has a little bit of a torn fin. But this is a golden top minnow. It's a killifish species. And no eggs yet, like I said, but I've been feeding these guys some frozen foods and some live foods and hoping to get some action out of them. We'll go down. I don't think I've ever done a tour where we went down. So we'll do the down then up thing, I guess. This tank is holding a very, very special fish. It's a very, very small fish. I'm not sure if we'll be able to find it. I'm definitely going to do a dedicated video on it. I've had it for a few weeks. Big shout out to my friend Jose at Wakaiva Aquatics. Him and I were collecting, and he actually collected it, and he let me keep it. It's a species that we've been after for a very, very long time. It's very tiny, and she's been very happy eating a lot of Daphnia, but we'll cover her later. Speaking of wild fish, down here, there's some Mad Tom catfish. I'm gonna stick my hand in here, which is probably a little crazy because these things are poisonous. Big shout out to Bill Shields at the Tampa Bay Aquarium Society last month. He was telling me, I told him that my buddy and I caught a few, and I have some, and I was like, yeah, they sting like a bee, right? And he goes, well, yeah, a bee for like an hour and a half. So apparently they'll make you want to freaking, there's one right there. They'll make you want to hurt yourself for an hour and a half. But there's two of those Mad Tom catfish. They're really cool. They don't get large. That's about as big as they get. So they're a predator species, whereas they're going to go ahead and eat like small fish. That's why I have snails and some gambusia breeding in here. I'm not going to stick my hand in there to try to unearth the second one because they're usually pretty reclusive and nocturnal. So it's pretty crazy to, this is the most I've actually seen them active. So enjoy the footage. But yeah, I'll probably do a species profile on this fish in this tank. Really, really cool fish. I consider adding them to the main 55-gallon native tank in the house. If they swam like this all the time, I probably would. But this is a tadpole Mad Tom catfish, and I wasn't planning on spending this much time on this tank, but he's putting on a show, so we're gonna stay here. But no, this is a really freaking cool species. I remember the first time we caught this. What the freak, dude? Is that a tadpole or a catfish? I had no idea what it was. I thought it was legit like just a tadpole. So the fact that my friend David knew exactly what it was right away, and it's pretty neat. So once again, big shout out to my friend Jose for letting me be the one to hang on to these guys and keep them, because they're really really cool fish, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of them just seeing them every once in a while, but really getting a lot of enjoyment checking this guy put on the show right now. If we move over one to here, we can see there's a bunch of cull shrimp in here. Not too much going on. A lot of moss is doing well in here, and like I said, I just kind of put like all my a little bit of this, a little bit of that Skittles mixed tank. But the plants always seem to be doing, you know, decent in that tank. Moving up one is kind of a barren tank. There's a few little straggler orange shrimp in here and a bunch of Malaysian trumpet snails. But the plan is to, I think I'm going to add some more natives to this tank. Like I said, I got options, so probably going to add some natives. We move up one more. We have a cherry shrimp tank. This tank's a little cloudy. I actually had some issues with planaria in this tank. So the shrimp have still been breeding well. But as you can see, there's even planaria on the sponge filter. It's kind of a little cloudy right now. Been doing extra water changes. I did just feed green beans, so that tends to cloud the water a bit. But as you can see, shrimp are doing well. Tons of little babies, different sizes. I mean, there's minuscule babies on there. This tank has been pumping out shrimp for me pretty regularly for months and months and months. But definitely, like I said, have a little bit of planaria going on. So gonna try a few different ways. I know some people try the traps. Other people, you know, go right to different dog dewormers, I think. I think I might start with the trap and see how well that does, and then go from there. But I'm not gonna freak out and do anything too drastic. Same thing up here. Well, not same thing. There's no planaria in this tank, but blue shrimp tank. These blue shrimp, I mean, there's a handful maybe. They just never seem to kind of take off. There's a kind of a really looking one. I have them, we'll get to another tank down here where they're doing much better. But just kind of a tank that needs a rehaul. My plan is to rehaul both of these tanks once I probably get this up and running. There's always projects going on. So obviously I've been planning things for a long, long time. If you guys been here, I think since like video number 1, I was planning on putting a dual rack system over there. And yeah, I'm still planning on it one day. But the plan is to redo these tanks eventually. But like I said, if I'm being honest, it's not high up on the plans right now because I got the breeding operation and that's kind of taking over the focus right now. Moving over to the 20-gallon longs, the rack system is set up where we have 8 10 gallons over here, and then over here we have 8 20 longs. So, and they're all, in case you're new here, they're all centrally plumbed. They work on a sponge filter. I'll link videos down below. This is all one central air pump, and then these tanks in the rack system are also on a, we'll call it a semi-automatic water change, and they're all drilled in the back, so each is independent. That's what these are right here, overflows. So, you know, there's no contamination. This tank right here, it's kind of a snail haven. I'm gonna put some Pleco grow outs in here, I believe soon. There was some Pleco grow outs, I took them out. But I think I'm gonna move them back. With Plecos and snails and shrimp just seem to do well together. There's also some rabbit snails in here. Some 2 like kind of medium-sized rabbit snails hanging out there. They have more of like the yellow foot. You really can't see their foot right now, but they're kind of that yellow-footed rabbit snail. They're cool. They do eat plants though, so they're not my favorite snail. This is another species of fish. These are the dwarf neon rainbow fish that I want to start cranking out. As you can see, the spawning mop in there. I've been getting eggs for these guys for months now. I raised up like a handful, but once again, I just know that if I'm gonna get into it, I need a system, I need a process if I'm gonna be successful. And that's what I'm waiting for before I kind of turn up the dial like I did with the Plecos. I'm gonna wait till I kind of really put together that grow out system and then crank up these dwarf neon rainbows along with the corridoras and some other fish that we have planned that we'll get to. But it looks like the male to female ratio is not optimal for breeding. The males have the red fins and the females are more that yellowish. So I only have like 3 or 4 females and like twice that many males. But like I said, I do find eggs in here and I have been able to successfully raise, you know, a few before, so they should work out just fine. This tank is booming down here. This is the 20-gallon long Endler tank. There's also some yellow shrimp. Yellow shrimp are, they're holding on. But these Endlers, my gosh, I started with 2 males, as you can see, front and center right here. I picked out these specifically because they have, they're red-chested Endlers. These 2 males specifically have red fins. They're back fins. I should really get to know the names of these fins and stuff, huh? But They specifically have the red kind of all the way back on both the top and the bottom fin. And I'm just starting to see coloration on some of these young males. We'll see how they come out, but the goal is to work on a strain and get them to all come out to be, you know, breed true. So these guys are just booming in here. Like I said, I started with 2 males and maybe 5 females, 4 or 5 females. And as you can see, there's a few dozen fish, different size fry. Definitely these females have been popping them out. So the plan is to probably start a few tanks of these and, you know, get a little line breeding operation going. Dropping down here, not sure I'm gonna line breed these guys, but definitely wanna breed them and have been breeding them. These are these native, well, they're not native, they're invasive, but they were wild caught. This beautiful swordtail I caught with, actually with Corey from Aquarium Co-op. He saw this guy in the wild, we threw the trap, and boom, there he was. So big shout out to him.
There was like 4-inch swordtail over here though.
Oh, there's a swordtail. There's that swordtail, Corey. Pretty. We also collected these other females out there, and as you can see, there's a few babies. I put a few of these fish out in tubs, and believe it or not, I don't know if it's coincidence or just probably just more genes than inside versus outside, but as you can see the fry, there's probably like 6 fry in here. 3 or 4 came from outside. I think 2 or 3 are from in here. The colorful ones were all from out in the tubs. And like I said, I don't think that's because they're getting color in the tubs. I just think probably you know, their genes. But either way, it'd be interesting to see how these guys grow up, if, you know, they get the sword or if they're males or how that works. This used to have the daffodil cichlids, which are now in that 125. We had kind of took a look at Tanganyikan tank. So now we got these livebearers in here. Moving over here, this will be a home probably to some more natives. I have a shiner in here. There's 1 shiner species, but these are the lone fish he's been in here. I had brought home 2 and I had lost 1 a few months back. So that's why across the way we had took a look at that 10-gallon. Some of those natives will probably come into here. There's also some orange cherry shrimp that are hiding out. So we'll see what I want to do with that population, or how many fish or what type of species of fish I want to introduce here. Because even though there's not a ton of orange shrimp in here, there's definitely still a straggling population. And the crypts are doing well. Haven't really been talking about many plants on the tour so far, but these crypts are booming. This Anubias nana, I mean, it's growing about as quick as Anubias nana could grow, so excited there. And moving down, this is a tank where we have some more blue shrimp. They're doing decent in here. As you can see them actually see the shrimp in the tank, which is a good sign. They're moving around, and like I said, they're not booming. There's not hundreds of them in here, but they're doing well and they're breeding. And then we also have some of these mystery snails, these blue and ivory mystery snails, which is another thing I have going on in the tanks over here. Snails, I got some not blue. Well, I put the blue down here, but some purple and magenta mystery snails as well. So I want to start breeding them out. Actually, we could take a look at an egg sac right there. There's mystery snail eggs right there. I need to put those covers on those tanks. That's what that plastic cover is for. So need to keep those guys moist and humid. Last tank in the rack system before we get into inside and those cool fish we got from Hawaii and Spain. This tank is a bunch of cherry shrimp. You see some green beans down there. There's 2 kind of Amazon swords gone wild, some guppy grass. It's not really scaped. This tank was just kind of thrown together. You could see some assassin snails there in the glass. But it's done well for me, produce a lot of shrimp. Speaking of assassin snails, let's see if you take a look in here, because this tank also I breed a decent amount of assassin snails in here. There's one right there. Usually I see tons of them out here. Let's see. There's another guy over here. Oh, there's a bunch over here. Yeah, there's tons in here. So yeah, assassin snails, they will breed. They won't breed like ram's horns. You know, ram's horns will breed like crazy. But assassin snails, I think they're a cool snail because they look cool, but they also won't get out of control, and they'll help. If you don't like this look, they can help you there. But let's take a look inside at the 55-gallon native tank, the 29-gallon where my breeding super reds are, and then some of those cool, little touch upon some of the cool fish we have inside growing out in containers that we hatch from eggs. This is the 55-gallon tank in my living room that was previously the Mbuna tank. As you can see, it's kind of planted, but half planted. Some of the plants got uprooted. This tank's only been together now for a little over a week or so, and it's established, but it's not finished. I'm probably gonna do a full video on it once I do get started. The cool thing about this tank, it's all natives. These are all natives that I caught myself. A few, I believe, my friends might have caught or dip netted, but they were all caught on collecting trips here locally with my friends. I won't go into all the species now, although that's a golden top minnow, which is a species of killifish. Same one that we have outside. There's a bunch of bluefin killifish down here, and some really cool bottom species, some darters, a crayfish. The plants, most of these plants are not native per se, although this stem plant, this red, I believe it's a Ludwigia. I got some over here and some over here. This I collected in the wild. I don't think it's native. I think it is invasive, but it is something that you can collect in the wild here in Central Florida, as well as this this val on the back. Don't believe it's native, but it does grow here. There's some least killifish, the smallest livebearer in the world. I believe I saw a few little babies in here. Like I said, haven't been in here for long. So, but the plan is to hopefully breed some of these fish, or not to do anything other than to sustain this tank. It'd just be kind of cool to see little babies in this tank. Don't plan to like take them out of this tank. This guy's got some dots on him. I'm not sure what that is. I might have to treat this tank or take a look at that. All the fish in this tank I had in a separate tank in the garage for at least 2 weeks. Actually, most of them for longer. So that's a new development. But got a few more species want to add to this tank. And like I said, hopefully just plan to kind of get everybody nice and happy. Some species will probably breed, hopefully raise up some young, some may get eaten, but that's okay. Let's go take a look at the 29-gallon tank where my super red plecos are breeding, and then all those kind of cool experiments or little projects I have going on. As I'm quickly passing by, leaving the living room, I'm probably not going to do this. This video is already going to be 30 minutes long plus, so I'll touch upon the summer tubs. I'm not going to break them down again, but I'll do an update video on that, as well as talk to you about what's going on in these two tanks out there. But let's head on to the front room. The mad scientist laboratory has been pouring over into the front room here. This room barely ever gets used, so it's slowly turning into another fish room. I got some live cultures. I got some grindleworm cultures. Probably going to do a video about that. Maybe the next video out, actually. Got some microworm cultures, already a video on that. I'll spill the beans on these fish. These are some Japanese rice fish, some Medaka. If you guys have been watching this video, probably already 30 minutes long. It's gonna keep them a secret, but plan is to breed these guys out. Got a few different strains, actually. There's a different strain in here that I actually hatched out from eggs from Spain. And there's another fish, this is another killifish, a true annual killifish from Africa that I hatched out from Spain, from eggs. Once again, there's actually the peat moss, but really cool fish. I'm gonna have a video, like I said, going over this stuff, getting more in depth. As I was talking about earlier in the video, I love doing this, but this is putting a strain on me, having this little kind of like temporary setup situation. I'm getting ready to do water changes. I got buckets and little containers, and it's not all central. So anytime you're going to be doing stuff like this is what puts a strain on me, and I think a lot of other hobbyists. That way that's why I want to do a more central system to kind of produce some more of these egg layers, hatch out eggs, etc. Because it's definitely more labor intensive doing it in these little, segmented areas as opposed to a central one. Let's talk about this 29-gallon tank. This has been set up for a while, and I've wanted to do a reboot on it for quite some time. These are my oldest plants. If you've been watching the channel for a while, these two Anubias, and the whole thing is all disgusting and stirred up. This tank's interesting for a few different reasons. Number one, I have a breeding pair of super red bristlenose plecos in here. Believe it or not, this tank looks like a mess. There's the female, I believe, back there. And then the male, he likes to hide. Here he is right there. He's chilling over here. But they get busy. I actually was checking out earlier today. She looks pretty gravid. There's their cave over there. So they're probably a week or two away. kind of on the same timeline as those blue-eyed lemons outside. If we take a closer look at the bottom of this tank, there's blackworms everywhere. There is essentially a gigantic culture of California blackworms in this tank. I don't think I've showed it off on the channel before. I'm not sure if I have or not. But essentially there's a bunch of cherry shrimp. There's a ton of California blackworms. There's a ton of snails. I recently added some assassin snails to help try to take that down. I don't want to make any drastic changes to this tank because even though it looks ridiculous and absurd, my super reds are breeding in here like clockwork. So I do my water changes, I feed, I do my normal stuff. I don't gravel vac too much, as you can see, kind of this mold and crap building up. But I mean, like the blackworms are going crazy, the shrimp are breeding like crazy. I need to cull them out a little bit. The snails, granted, a little more snails than I'd like, even though I'm not an anti-snail guy. But we'll see. Eventually, I do want to rehaul this tank, but like I said, it'll have to be a while because the super reds are breeding. Appreciate you guys watching, especially this long. A big thank you from me and Bobo. Bobo. If you want to check out some wild collecting videos, you could do so right there. For some really cool tours of fish farms and stuff, check them out right there. I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. What are you waiting for? Thank you guys. Stay positive and stay passionate.